Yes, yeah. Um, so I don't know why it didn't grab the whole. Okay, so first of all, I last time I was this. This is the class we did, correct? This was us. Yeah. Okay. So we finished off with little baggage and wheelie suitcase before we had to go. But I want you to remember this. You guys are the narrators of your life. You're the ones who tell the story of your life. And you're the ones that are, quote, in control of your life. Ha ha. So you think. Moving on. Really me, because I've got my lab coat today, because we're going outside. Okay, but no. But what it is that what is more powerful? What's more powerful, the situation or yourself? It all depends on the situation. Oh, that's really hard sometimes. Because I know you can. There are people who can separate themselves from the power of the situation. But you got to remember this, especially when you watch those videos. Careful, it's dark, especially when you first walk in. When you watch some of those videos that we sent out about racism, the Stanford prison study, even though the people knew what was going on was fake, did they become a part of the study? Yeah, even so, if you want to become a good student, what do you have to do? Well, but doing your homework is just a part of what you have to do. You have to play the role as a student. Okay, so let me close this real quick. It gets really dark in here. I know. Good for it. Oh yeah. Okay, I like it. So now, so I might have to take this out because you guys are gonna be creepy in here. So, the power of the situation. I hate those. Okay. The power of the situation means that if you're in a particular group of people that are doing something, it's easier for the group to change you. Shh. The larger the group, you take 3 words and I shush you, and she's been talking all semester. I don't shush you. I'm sorry. That was very sexist. Not you, them. Yeah, okay. Okay. There's quieter, that's all. Okay. So, but if you're in a group, especially if you're in a class like this where you're allowed to goof off a little bit, are you more likely to goof off a little bit? Yes, because the situation allows it. If I were stompy, angry teacher, wouldn't allow you to behave that way, a lot of people stop going to class. If anybody has an angry, stompy teacher this semester, what happens to the attendance by the end of the semester? Drops a lot. And that's part of the reason is that if the situation allows you to skip, you're more likely to skip if you want to. Are there some people that will just go and grunt and grit and bear it? Yes, because their self is greater than that particular situation. Every single one of us in here is affected by the world around us. You can't not be. The people that aren't affected by the world around us actually are called sociopaths. You want to be affected by the world around you. Okay, so I'm going to break this in. We're going to talk about your personality today. And what I'm giving you is I'm giving you words today to describe who you were. Hopefully more people than 22 have filled out the personality survey. When I looked at it yesterday and I sent you the email, hey, fill this out. Only 22 people had done it, and out of both of my classes. Anyway, moving on. So, and 3 of them people aren't even in my class that filled it out. That's not important. Okay. Not to mention any names. I know. Okay, so why give you words? Why give you vocabulary to understand your personality? Why give you language? Relatable to whom? Well, it's funny because I was talking with our dog groomer yesterday. Not yesterday, that was Easter. Saturday. Went in to buy dog food at our local dog groomer store. And I walked in there a couple weeks ago, and they're trimming a husky. Anybody ever have a husky in here? What happens when you cut their hair? Well, they do kind of look like rats because they have like 16 coats of hair. They do get little, well, sometimes, if it's nice and hot out and you cut their hair, they're like, yes! And they're running around super crazy frisky. But okay, so is the hair light and fluffy that comes off? Yeah. So they were cutting a husky using a hair dryer to blow dry. Yeah, there's this giant cloud of husky. And I walk in there, and the poor groomer is like just a giant snowball with little black flakes all over because the hair is two different colors. And she turns around and looks at me, and Megan, the owner of the shop, has her camera and goes, click! And she's got the biggest, I'm going to kill you if you post that picture. Because there's literally a giant cloud of hair. So I go, wow, that must be disgusting to have that much hair on you when you go home from work. And she goes, it's a hazard of the job. Then the second part is, she goes, I've been to some dog grooming places where they don't sweep up after every dog. And I said, yeah, that's called conscientiousness. And my son yells, nerd, at me. But what does it mean if you don't clean up after every dog? A hair piles up. And then so some people who are properly efficient say, I'll just sweep once a day. And I only have to sweep once a day, and all the hair will still be there, so I only have to sweep once a day. Sounds logical and efficient, right? But that's actually called low conscientious scores. A conscientious person, what will they do? Sweep after every dog to make sure the place looks neat and presentable whenever somebody walks in. But because Megan is extremely conscientious, she cleans up as the dogs are being groomed, especially if you like our little fluffy dog. She has really fluffy hair. Her hair goes everywhere as well, but not quite the volume of the husky. It's really funny if you, anyway. But the important part is that if you have this conscientiousness, if you have the word conscientiousness in your vocabulary about describing someone, it makes sense to talk about it. There's another term that we used to use called anal retentive. The hell does that mean? But that was common words up until probably about 10 years ago. And I brought my glasses so I could Google this today because Googling this in the wrong space. It'll figure it out. Oh, let's see, that's not the right one. TNTI. I'm kind of nervous about typing, whatever. No, that's a Saturday Night Live skit. Thank you.
I got it.
Me. Okay, sorry. So, basically, back in the early 1900s, there was a guy by the name of Sigmund Freud. Now, he wasn't weird. Sigmund Freud, let me just give you a little backstory. He was a neurologist. He studied the brain. He got his MD. By the time he was 22, 23 years old, he was practicing medicine in Austria. He was extremely brilliant. He also happened to be very short. He also happened to be very Jewish. And he also happened to be very atheist. So the Jews had issues with him because he said that God didn't exist. The Catholics at the time in Austria said, well, you're Jewish, you're bad. The Nazis didn't like him for some reason. Anyway, an educated Jew living in Austria. Ooh, yeah. Anyway, he kept noticing that a lot of his patients that he kept seeing didn't have anything wrong with them. His patients, he's a neurologist, they'd come to him with nervous disorders, with these really strange behaviors, and he's looking at them, he goes, there's nothing wrong with your brain. So he started realizing that there's something called the unconscious mind. And Freud believed that there's something inside of you that you are not even aware of that drives you, that pushes you. Okay, and so we have to explore this a little bit. Freud named it the id. Doesn't stand for ID, it's called the id. And he said that the id is a bubbling, seething cauldron of anxiety sitting at your core. The id has 3 basic drives. The number 1 drive is pleasure. Pleasure. Seek satisfaction now. Want satisfaction now. You can see ids because when babies are born, they are little id machines. They are satisfying. So wait a second. What happens to anybody have a little baby? Little tiny one nearby? Okay. What do they... You got your mouth full, so you're just munching on something. Oh, wait. Okay, good. So what if a baby's cold, little tiny baby's cold, what does it do? It doesn't just cry. It screams like it's dying. Yeah. And they get to the billy goat. And they get like, their fists are clenched up and they're turning red. And then you just wrap them up and they go, oh, that's it. And they fall asleep. If it's hungry, what does it do? The same exact thing if it's cold. My poor son, I feel really bad for this, but we put his jammies on because my kids are ridiculously long. He just crested 5'3". He's 99.7 pounds. Wonder he keeps getting knocked down in basketball. Anyway, but when he was a little baby, he was way too long. So we got, you buy the little footy jammies for him, and you got to put them on, and like the shoulders are here. So what do? It's like the waist like a sweatshirt. No, because then, so what we did is we just cut the feet out of his jammies. And then just pull him up, and then he's wearing high water and put little socks on him, and he's fine. Well, one of the times we cut the feet off, there's a little piece of elastic that goes around the feet. It got caught between his leg and the jammies. So when we put his feet in there, this little piece of elastic was pinching his foot. It was pinching his leg. So he's crying and uncomfortable. We're walking him around. He's about 4 days old. We have to bring him back that next day anyway for like the week visit or something like that. And so he's crying and crying and crying. He would not calm down. And we're like, we have a kid already. We know what to do. This is weird. So we called the doctor and said, why don't you just bring him in for his well kid visit now and we'll figure it out. And we're like, great. We take his jammies off and he goes, whew. And we're feeling like, oh, bad parents. He's got a big red mark on his leg where the elastic was pinching him. Bad parents. Okay, but according to Freud, is that the baby only has one drive, which is to be satisfied. There's a part of your brain called the nucleus accumbens. It's called the bed nucleus of the Niagara striatum, if you care. But it's called the nucleus accumbens, and what this does, this produces pleasure. Drugs like cocaine and amphetamines stimulate this part of your brain. So what do they tell you? You're satisfied. How come people don't eat when they use amphetamines? They're satisfied. They don't need to eat. They don't need to sleep. They feel satisfied. So Freud didn't know about the nucleus accumbens. It wasn't discovered until many, many years after he died. But did he figure out that one existed? Yeah, he was super, super smart. He also said that the primary way that we get pleasure is through sex. Little side note about Freud. He loved collecting ancient phallic art. Please be careful. Where's my glasses? Ancient. Okay, brace yourself. Good times. Okay. So, there's penises. Sorry. Okay. So, what's funny about this is, look at the Everlasting Penis Art Gallery. I like it. Okay. We could Google vagina too if you want to, but that's not important. Okay. So what's funny about this is that if you look at a lot of these ancient figurines, oh, never mind. Okay, moving on. So scroll down a bit there. What do you notice, aside from being slightly offensive? But why did ancient art carvers carve this little wood nymph over here with the giant penis? Well, that's how they look. Oh no. So why in the Middle Ages did these soldiers have these giant metal things over their anatomy? So when they walked in the armor, they're like, yeah. Why do that?
I heard it was that so that when they go away, the wife has something to like the
I got too many jokes. But yeah, so be careful Googling that. The males would have these suits of armor with these giant penises in them because a penis meant power back then. Well, it's funny, even as far as the 70s, even as far back as just 1970s, people assumed that if you had a larger penis, that you were a better man. Okay, people still feel this way, and it's weird, but Freud said, this was back in Freud's time as well, this was also back in ancient times. Whenever they depicted a drawing of the king, they added a little something something to his crotchal region, just to make him look more kingly. Okay? And it's interesting that they did this because Freud was fascinated by this power of sex in our society. Because, well, Freud was raised in Victorian times. So if I go to Google and get rid of the penises, and look at a Victorian house dress, okay? This is what a typical woman would wear. If you were in San Diego in the early 1900s, as a female, this is what you would wear. Well, no, not now, but so why would this be the standard fashion? Now just imagine the stink. Oh, no deodorant, you're wearing this all summer? Nice humid day, southern Baja humidity coming at you? That's right. Okay, but why was this what a typical woman would wear? They were, okay, so the conservatism was a sign of societal class. Back in the Victorian era, the more conservative you were, the higher class you were. So if you watch Cinderella, if you watch the old movie Cinderella, I did this before, where you hear Drizella and Anastasia walking, they're like bouncing all over the place, and their butts are bouncing all over the place. That's because that was demonstrating that they were low class. When Cinderella walks, you can't see anything move, not a jiggle, not a wiggle, just a glide. Because, well, so anytime a female expressed sexuality, she was looked down on in Victorian times. So Freud said there was a lot of anxiety. It turns out if the id doesn't get what it wants, it produces anxiety. So the id was a predominant anxiety machine because it said, I want, and the anxiety saying, well, you can't. So then there's something called the ego. What does your ego do? What did I just do with the id? Contains it. It takes the id and turns it into reality. As soon as a little baby turns 8 or 9 months old, their brain goes, click, reality. They don't have a very good sense of reality at 8 or 9 months, but they all of a sudden look around and start paying attention to things around them. I have lots of pictures of my kids eating dog food with the dogs. The kid's hungry, it's looking around. It's not just going to scream that it's hungry because what does a kid have the ability to do? Move. It also has the ability to feed itself. Well, as soon as they have enough fine motor dexterity to feed themselves, why do you throw them Cheerios? to practice feeding themselves. Cheerios have holes in the middle so they don't gag and die on them. At the Learning Development Center here, one of my friend's kids was there. She went down to pick up her kid, and the little boy goes, "What are you eating?" And he goes, "Nyeh," and there's a whole handful of roly-polies he put in his mouth. He wasn't really eating them, though. He was just roly-polying them. Because the little poor things are like, "No!" You put them in your hand, they're like, "Okay." Poor roly-polies are just... My daughter was collecting them at our house once, and she came in a little while later, and she goes, "Roly-polies can't swim." She had been putting them in a cup of water and just blunk, blunk. The carnage of the roly-polies at the behest of little children. Anyway, but the kids learn that I can eat stuff. Then what do they learn, though? What does a reality start to teach them? I can't eat everything. And a kid will pick up something and eat it and go, "Oh, okay, I can't eat that." And then eventually you see the parents go, "Ugh," when they eat something, they go, "Oh, no, don't eat that? Okay." So then eventually what happens is the kid starts to learn rules. Called the superego. Oh, missed the letter, sorry. Okay, so according to Freud, again, remember, this is Freud, early 1900s. He said that we have this thing called the id, which is a driving force that keeps you to satisfy yourself. This predominant thing that he talked about was sex. Sexual motivation, sex drive. Your ego and your reality says, hey, let's find a suitable outlet for this drive. The ego's finding reality for it. And the superego is telling you, when? It's okay. So, what happens with the id and the superego? There's problems. There's problems with the id and the superego. A male has a sexual drive about every 30 seconds. I'm getting older. Nothing. Stupid testosterone. Oh, there's one. Okay, good. So if the id has a sex drive, it was funny, like when I first started teaching, I would do that same joke about every 30 seconds. Okay, there's one. And now it's funnier the other way. Okay, here we go. So it's funny to me. Okay, so if the id has a sex drive, what does it say? Yeah, well, I don't even want to have sex. I can back in a minute. Okay. Never okay in an airplane. Okay. From The Hangover? Okay, whatever. Okay. But the reality says, ew, we could find a more private place. Well, again, the superego says, okay, it's never okay in an airplane. That, wait till there's some private time or maybe dinner and a movie or something. Our anniversary's coming up. Looking forward. Okay, so get old. You'll understand. Okay. So now, so this is, or what was the other joke? What is it? I used it last time? Swiping. That's what my older friends do that are single. Ugh. What do they look? Who else is on there? Other old people that are looking to hook up, and it's like, ugh. Okay. It's your parents' age. Ha! Yeah. And all the guys' photos are like, ugh. Not. I love it. Okay, moving on. But so what happens is that there's a problem. The stronger your rules, what happens with the amount that the id can be expressed? Less. The stronger the society's rules, the more id has anxiety. And this is the problem. This is why Freud came up with this. In Victorian Europe, a lot of his patients with psychiatric illnesses were female. He found out that most of them, when they opened up to the psychologist, they said, yes, I want to engage in sexual activity with my husband, but every time I try to initiate, he thinks I'm a bad person. Because in society at the time, a female expressing her sexual desires was considered low class. And so, yeah, and anybody knows in reality that Freud's time was pretty much crap for women. However, Freud set the women's movement back personally about 20 years because did the society embrace his ideas? Yes. Nowadays, we just look at what people wear at the beach. There's no repression. Nope. I mean, it's just people are like, woohoo, whatever. And it's like, and for some people, for a lot of older people or people with a lot of superego, they go, well, I can't understand this these days, these kids. But do the young kids even notice or even care? No. And it's the generational gap that's in, because they have different societies. They have a different set of society rules. Okay, so here's how the ego fixes it. You have a lot of what's called defense mechanisms. This is your ego. Your ego says, oh no, got that feeling again. Wait, no I don't. Doesn't that work great? You were totally scrolling through Tinder. No, I wasn't. Close the app. Okay, and what is denial? I spelled that wrong, didn't I? Yeah, thank you for telling me. I could tell by your subconscious quietness. Okay, what? D-E-N-I-A-L, right? Denial. No, I spelled it wrong, yeah. I spelled the way you spelled it. See, I'm with you. Yeah, I got it. Okay. The other one's a river in Egypt, but not important. Okay, that's denial. Okay. It's so funny how I can't see words in my head at all. I sound them out and do the best I can. Okay. So one of the things about denial is that denial is where you actually just literally tell the id, no you aren't. Well, it's really great. So we have a good friend, I mentioned this before, is suffering from alcoholism. She's like, okay, I need to go get counseling so I can keep my job. Don't you think you should get counseling so you stop drinking so much? No, I just need it for my job. So she's focusing on the extrinsic, not on the internal. And that's sadly a lot of drug dependence comes from denial. Well, I stopped drinking. Yeah, but you're smoking like 3 ounces a day. Well, I'm not drinking. Okay, so one of the weird things about denial is, do you know you're in denial? No, the ego does a very good job of not allowing you to see things until you have your friends and family. The situation around you allows you to break through your denial. When my dad passed away, he died from drinking too much. He died in December, and December 20-something. And when he passed away, my brother and I he had tons of problems with his estate. When he got really old or really sick, he was only 52 when he died. When he got really sick, he'd whatever credit card you'd get in the mail, he'd fill out the application and send it in. So we kept getting credit cards. Yeah, that's not good because he never opened the envelopes with the credit cards in them. But when he passed away, what did he have? Like tons and tons and tons of these credit card accounts. Every single one accrues a little bit of cost here and there, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of credit card debt that he didn't buy anything. He just by filling out the applications, because he was kind of a joke as he was getting sick, how many will they actually give me? He wasn't thinking about the grand picture of it. So when he willed everything to my brother and myself, but so he also willed us all the debt. Yeah, thanks, Dad. Luckily one of my brother's now ex-wife's sister is a corporate lawyer. So she just said, I got this. And so she dealt with the mess for us. Thank you. Okay, name was Robin, just in case you care. But she dealt with all that stuff for us. But it wasn't until I defended my thesis in April, around this year, in 1997, no, 1998, when I defended my thesis, the first thing I did is I started calling my dad's phone number. Oh. So 4 months later, why did I call him? No, he didn't have an answering machine. No, this is back before these things. So this is 1998. The only person that had one in his car was Matlock. Okay, but nobody? Really old reference. Thank you very much. Okay, but if you're a Simpsons fan, they recurred. Yeah. So basically, I had not dealt with the fact that he had passed away. My brain, was he still alive? Yeah, so I'm like, holding the phone going, oh. So I hung up, I waited for a minute, I called my brother, I'm like, dude, let's go have a beer and talk about this. And my brother and I never actually talked about him dying. Because that denial, that there's that pressure of his anxiety of his death and all the legal nonsense. We talked a lot about the legal crap, but we never actually talked about the fact that we don't have a dad anymore. And that never really broached for months. But my brother also, he suffers from alcoholism as well. And he was living in denial for many, many years as well. And so why was he going down the same stupid road? That same defense mechanism. Yeah, it's all about feeling satisfied, feeling comfortable. And I really think that by studying psychology for so many years, it really helped me, because after taking a class in personality, Judy Price's Psych 351, I think you're taking that again next semester, aren't you? Oh, you did? Yeah, that class, she killed us all. Did you have Judy Price? No. Oh, okay, I don't know that person. Okay, no, Judy Price pretty much shredded everybody during class. Yeah. Well, guys do denial much better, because we don't like conflict. We want things to be fixed. So like when guys get in an argument, they don't let it stew for months. They punch each other and get mad at each other, and it's over. Girls repress. What is the difference between repression and denial? Yeah. Repression is active. When things start bubbling up and you just push it back down. And it comes up, push it down again. What happens every time you push it down, though? No, you don't necessarily explode. We'll get there in a second. It just packs this further down. Like, we'll zoom in. There it is. It just packs this crap down further, deeper and deeper. The problem is the more you keep pushing it down, the more energy it has to eventually come out. A lot of times you'll be watching a sad movie and all of a sudden you just bawl hysterically. That's your repression coming out. It's called catharsis. When you have this little cathartic event, you feel like when you cry for some reason. Do you feel better after crying? No, I'm a snotty crier. I'm not. It's not good. It's just not good. I just try to avoid crying at all times. But so make sure you carry a hanky. You're gonna start crying. Okay. So, but the thing about the repression is it's active. It's ongoing. Denial is refusal to see the actual event that's causing the anxiety. So there's a couple other ones which are pretty good. When you project, your ego will say, it's not me. Everybody else has a problem. I don't. That's an excellent problem-solving technique. You're all stupid. You're all bad students. That's why you get bad grades. Ego intact. Okay? And so what happens is when you project, what are you doing to it? My daughter did this yesterday. In about 2 hours, she is taking her driver's test. Good vibes. Send good vibes at 2:40 toward El Cajon. So yeah, the El Cajon DMV. Challenge accepted. And so we went out and drove the courses yesterday afternoon. They're all online, so you can see the different courses that they take. And so we were following the 4 different courses that they typically take at the El Cajon DMV. And she did great. She did really, really well driving. And then on the way home, she got in the wrong lane to turn on to the 52. So she cut in front of somebody. And my wife yelled, "Hey, you wave, smile, do something." "No, I'm not going to." And started yelling back at my wife. Really, they all come home. My grandpa, my wife, and her went out. And they all came home. They're all like not looking at each other and walked through their separate parts of the house. I'm like, "What happened? Did we kill someone?" She goes, "Almost." My daughter yells back, "Not really." And is my daughter nervous about taking the test? So the anxiety about taking the test, she can't do anything about. But what can she do? She can displace it upon my poor wife. Or, well, my wife displaces back. Okay, so the fact that my daughter did something stupid and yelled at my wife for getting on her for doing something stupid, that's projection. But why is she grouchy at the rest of us? Yeah, well, we're obviously too old to understand. And that's what you young people say. Well, you just don't understand. We do. You just can't see it. You don't know what it's like. Yeah, we do, actually. We've been there. Things are different now. No, they're not. The same social crap that you guys got, we had. Yours just runs faster. People got bullied when I was a kid. Just slower. More systematically, over longer periods of time. Good times. Okay, moving on. Luckily, as a big kid, I don't get bullied. Okay. Who gets bullied most? We did statistics. No, statistics. Not geeks. Little geeks. Yeah, it's the big geeks. Nobody bullies them because bullies pick up people who are smaller, physically smaller than them. We did the analysis in my stats course.
You mean like physically or verbally?
Both. Electronically too. Still the small people. That's why it's always satisfying when that little small person kicks that big bully's butt. Like, what was the Christmas Story, right? Frankie punches the kid out. Never mind, one vague reference. Okay, moving on. Okay, almost ready. So there's a couple other ones, these Freudian defense mechanisms that we could start going through, but these are the ones that we use the most common. We use the most common. And the one more that I wanted to talk about was this one, called sublimation. I forgot to write this down. Uh-oh, crashing. Okay, so displacement means that you take it out on somebody. You get upset by something and you take it out on somebody. If you have a lot of unsatisfied sexual desire, I knew it was crashing. If you have a lot of unsatisfied sexual desire, like looking at Victorian dresses. Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. You can creepy anything up, it's awesome. Crashed right when I made the O. So if you have a lot of unsatisfied sexual desire, so you can take it out on someone else. You blame somebody else. You challenge them for having unsatisfied sexual desires. That doesn't really work. Never mind. Creepy. So moving on. I got distracted by the dress. So what is sublimation then? Changing the state of the anxiety. So when you change the state of the anxiety, it's like if you have a lot of unsatisfied sexual desires, you go lift weights. We always tease the guy. We used to go to Dinosaur Fitness, which used to be Parkway Fitness. I don't know what it's called now. That's on Hamishaw. Is it Crunch now? Okay. Yeah, it used to be Dinosaur Athletic Club. Back in my day. But my wife and I used to work out there, and every time we'd go, the same guy was always there working out. We would go randomly. Why is that guy working out so hard? Well, we don't know if he's sexually frustrated. It could be aggressively frustrated, whatever. But yes, the joke is sublimating something. That's right. Okay. So is sublimation healthy? Yeah, that's where the term overcompensation comes from. That's actually we talk about. There's a guy that came after Freud named Adler, Alfred Adler. Anyway, he talked about overcompensating, undercompensating. If you my brain's not in that list of terms right now, but there's a whole list of terms that focuses more on the social comparison side than on the Freudian. This is unconscious side. So one of the ways that you look at this, if you look at someone who's super arrogant and super pushy toward everybody else, do you think they have a lot of internal anxiety? Possibly. Don't say yes or no. It's possibly. The reason it's possibly is because, do you know that you're doing these? No. This is the problem with Freud. Well, there's lots of problems with Freud, but this is the biggest problem with Freud. Okay? A lot of Freud said that you are dealing with a lot of these anxieties that you're not even aware that you're dealing with these anxieties. And because you believe that you don't know that you're dealing with them, you wander through life aimlessly until a psychologist sits behind you on a couch with a goatee and says, I see, and tells you that you're sublimating, and you go, oh, geez, I get it. So the whole process of psychoanalysis, in order to learn about your defense mechanism, takes 7 years. 7 years to sit down and talk to someone before they really know what your true self is and what your projected self is. But wait a second, how long do most relationships last? Well, you're working on it, but most marriages last about 7 years. If they don't make it 7 years, that's typical. But what if they do make it past 7 years? Well, you're together more likely forever. So it turns out that once you get to know somebody, once you get to know their real self, and you still like them, good. Okay, so my wife is stressed out about stuff. It's so funny how annoying I get. I'm pretty annoying. But I couldn't find my phone yesterday. So what was I doing? Walking all over the house trying to find my phone. No, it was sitting on the couch right where I was sitting, but a cushion had fallen on top of it, so I couldn't see it. And she's trying to watch a really emotional Grey's Anatomy or something last night, and so I'm like, dunk, 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 dunk. She pauses it. She goes, what? I can't find my phone. Do you want me to call it? Yes, I didn't want to disturb you, though. And I don't know. Anyway, I couldn't find my son's phone either because I was going to use his phone to call my phone. I couldn't find his phone either. So I was trying to find an iPad that I could have called my phone from the iPad, but it's awkward. Okay, it was on top of the fridge, by the way. The iPad. I found that later. Okay, so moving on. So I'm annoying. It's just so one of the things that we start looking at with Freud, and the biggest problem with Freud is Freud said that your personality was developed in the first 5 years of life. In the first 5 years of life, you go through these series of challenges. What are the challenges you have to go through early in your childhood? Walking is a challenge, but it's not something that causes a lot of kids anxiety. My son had this crazy bear crawl thing that he did, where one leg would shoot out and he would crawl / gallop / run sideways. And it was the weirdest thing. Like he's in the airport, we're going to Hawaii, and he's in the airport, and the people are looking at him and looking at us, and I'm walking. I don't know how he got that. My wife says, stop it! But do kids all learn to walk or wobble differently? Yeah, but they all kind of figure it out. It's not a major trauma, major conflict, but eating is. Freud said that this is called the oral phase, where all satisfaction for little tiny babies revolves around eating. How do babies deal when they're upset? Ah! They scream. It's all about the face. Well, why is this important for a baby? Developmentally, why is it important that the baby puts all of its energy in its face? That's all they got. That's all they got. It's some babies have an easy time sucking, some babies don't. And so some babies resolve this eating thing no problem. Some babies take a little bit of time. There's some babies have something called tongue thrusting. Yeah, so when they suck, they tuck their tongue out. So they go, they suck their tongue out. So they don't get as much food if they tongue thrust. So, yeah, you squeeze it in there. I don't got much left anymore. Okay, but yeah, you can. There's ways to help the baby. Okay, and there are ways to teach the baby how to latch on properly. There's a whole pile of breastfeeding stuff. But if the mom is not responsive to the baby, it causes what's called a fixation. This is where we have leftover anxiety. Leftover anxiety from early childhood. If you have this leftover anxiety from childhood, what happens when you get stressed? Yeah, well, it doesn't come out. It goes in. You chomp on things. People with what we call an oral fixation are more likely to smoke cigarettes or smoke cigars. They're looking for oral means of satisfaction. They start becoming much more interested in gum chewing and crunchy foods, where they're looking for the oral satisfaction of their meal as opposed to so much the enjoyment of the company. They're really interested in the food itself. Yeah, thumb sucking. Well, it's really interesting that my daughter was a thumb sucker, and my wife was a thumb sucker. My son, like he started to suck his thumb, he's like, went to sleep. So we used to call it the plug. When your kid's crying, you get a binky or a cork or a plug and just plug the kid up. Well, he would like go, I don't like that. Why is he super skinny now? He eats, well, he's been eating a bucket right now, but I mean, he's eating a ton right now because he's hitting a growth spurt. But when he's not hitting a growth spurt, he won't eat that much. He only eats the food that he needs. He's not like me, who tends to just eat because there's food there. What is that? I don't know. Why are you eating it? I'm eating it. But I had a lot of issues growing up because I played that video for you, didn't I, in here? Oh, so it's on this computer. It's not on my computer. Basically, my mom, in her wonderfulness, said, "Oh, I don't remember you as a baby." To me. Thanks. Appreciate that. She goes, "I remember your brother." Thanks. She goes, all I remember is stuffing you with food so you'd get fat. Because she's my mom. Because in the 70s, a fat baby, oh, it's a gordo. It's a happy baby. You get a little fat, chunky thing, and it's good. And you get a skinny baby, you're like, ooh. In a lot of cultures, a fat little roly baby is considered a healthy baby. Turns out you're just leading the kid onto childhood obesity, but that's not important. But back in the 70s, that they used to, if your kid was skinny, they thought you weren't healthy. Now we know that you let a kid eat, let a kid nurse for as long as they want to nurse, or feed them on a bottle until they're done, and let them be done. Most kids will regulate their their body weight very nicely. And our kids they're still long and skinny because we never fed them more than they needed. And do they eat more than they need to now? No, but I do. Freud said it's because of this anxiety I had during childhood, my mom over-justifying or overfeeding me when I was hungry. Could be the fact that I also look just like my mom. I have the same body style as my mom. So it could just be genetics and it's nothing to do with Freud. But did Freud actually measure children? No, this is all conjecture. Okay, so the next part, this is where we're finally getting to what we're supposed to talk about. It's called the anal phase. The anal phase is all about one thing and one thing only, poo. Between the ages of 2 and 4 years old, what is a child's major conflict? Poo. And it's really entertaining to watch these kids. The 1.5-year-old or 1-year-old will sit there and just like unload as he's talking to you. And then look around going, what's that smell? And not even notice. The diaper leaking everywhere. The kid just, No problem, right? Soon as that kid turns 2, they're behind the couch going, why are they all of a sudden? Freud believed that the anal phase has 2 parts. If the parents have a lot of anxiety, if the parents have a lot of anxiety about the child, when the child craps all over the place, they get mad at the child because you just made a mess. A 1-year-old doesn't know they just crapped their pants. They don't understand the difference between poo and not poo. But boy, does a 2-year-old? The 2-year-old will immediately go, uh-oh. But they do. They actually get that stance. And I have a really great video of my daughter like running behind the couch, and I always had the video camera on them all the time because they always do really cute things. So I just like when my babies were little, I had just videotape of their faces making little baby facial expressions. I'm annoying that way. Anyway, but so she would go behind the couch like, Ella, what are you doing? Nothing. It's so cute. I can't wait. I missed her 16th birthday with those. I was supposed to play those. Holy crap, she's 16. Okay, I'm okay. So the idea of expulsive is that if the child gets nervous about the forcing of pushing the poo out, what are they going to try and do? They're going to try to hold it in. Is that healthy for the child? No. Then there's the other side. Once the kid learns to push, right, they also have to learn to not push. Is it reflexive to poo when you feel bowel feces pressing against your bottom? Everybody knows this feeling. You got the trots and you're in the car. All of a sudden, every single muscle in your abdominal cavity tightens up. Oh! And you're like, no, not now, not now, not now. And you're like, doing the Lamaze breathing, and then it passes. But that's because pressure against the wall of the rectum causes that relative contractions that you're having. Okay? And that's why with diarrhea it's entertaining, but that's not important. Okay. So the retention part comes in the second phase of the anal phase. So it turns out that if you have a fixation, your parents punish you, or you are very embarrassed by expulsive events when you're young. Okay, what happens is that means you put all of your energy into retention. So one of the big jokes is that I am very anal expulsive. I tend to, whenever I get stressed, I don't poo everywhere. That's called encoparesis, which we will not talk about this semester. But if there's something, I make a mess. If you look in my bag, you can tell whether I'm stressed or not by the amount of leftover Tupperware in my bag from the previous week. I took it out this weekend. But there was 3 Tupperwares in my bag from over the course of the week. Why? Because I've got so much crap to do, and the school was closed on Friday when we had a bunch of more crap to do, behind schedule. But, so the more stressed I get, the more I poo everywhere. Because how does this child deal with that anxiety? Pushing. Pooing. So I spread my shit everywhere. There's a disorder where people actually dissociate, in fact, literally, yeah. Okay. Daddy's home? Or daddy daycare? Okay, so after studying psychology, that's an extremely creepy part of the movie. Does anybody know what that's a major sign of? Child sexual abuse. And so you realize that the child is super encoparetic and is really upset when the dad's home by himself with the kid, and then he spreads his poo all over the place when he's got... Moving on. Okay. Makes you double think about that movie a bit. It's still a funny movie. Eddie Murphy walks in. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so anal-retentivism then, what is the fixation then here? When you start getting stressed, what do you start to do? People who are anal-retentive are uberly neat and clean and tidy. We make the joke of Monica from Friends. Monica from Friends is extremely anal-retentive. But I want to give you a better... Anal-retentive is about Freud's little identity here. Freud never measured children. There's no scientific validity to this at all. But it turns out there's a whole series of in Saturday Night Live where they have the anal retentive carpenter, where he cuts a piece of wood and then he sweeps up all the little crumbs and then he puts it into a Ziploc bag, folds it over, puts it in the trash can, and then goes, okay. And then he gets out the next piece of wood and he starts cutting it, sweeps up all the cut, and then puts it back and puts everything back where it goes, and he goes, okay. And then the anal retentive, there's a skit with him as the anal retentive chef with John Goodman, a big guy. You guys know him as a big blue monster from Monsters, Inc. But Sully is the other guy. And he goes, my mom says you got to spit in all your food to make a little bit of part of yourself, and everyone else goes, and spits in the food. And the poor anal retentive carpenter, the chef, just passes out. Because what is he trying to do? Clean. Control. My beautiful wife is very anal retentive. When she gets stressed, everything has to be clean. She comes in, the house is a mess. I'm looking around, I don't see it because I'm anal expulsive. And there's like a leaf on the floor. And it's funny, the dog walks over and sniffs it. She's like, the dog like knows. It's great. Okay, but when things aren't stressed, are you allowed to make a mess? Now, without being under stress, someone who's anal retentive is relaxed. So the third stage here, we're going to get to this in just a second. Identity. This gets where Freud gets a little bit weird, but it's also pretty interesting. But between the ages of 5 and 8, what do little boys and girls learn? Who they are. The little boys learn, hey, I got junk. I'm a boy. Little girls learn, hey, I ain't got, I'm a girl. Here's a problem. Again, this is where Freud set the women's movement back a few years. What is girls' job in the world? Well, you can't just produce children. What do you need first? You need a penis. So what happens is the little girl says, I'm going to try to change color. Little girl says, I need a penis. What does little boy say? Nope. Okay, Freud's bias. Please remember that it sets the women's movement back a few years. Your job, ladies, is to get a penis someday. Boys' job is to keep theirs. It's not about who you are or anything else. Freud said it was all about your penis. Freud's daughter actually was a very famous psychiatrist as well, and she said, Dad, it's not about your penis. Okay? Your battery's running low. Forget it. Let it ride, baby. Let it ride! That's going to kill Di here in a second. I probably won't have time today because I looked at the data and not enough people have done the survey yet. Okay. Please do the survey by Wednesday. But I want to go outside and do the activity after all of that. But this is good stuff. You can use this with your friends and family. Okay. Okay, so now check this out. So how do little boys how do the boys keep their penis? You have to act like your dad. We're not going to go into the very subtle details of the identity crisis that boys go into, but they basically go through something called an Oedipus complex. They fall in love with their mom. They want to marry their mom and possess their mom in that way. And they can't because dad's going to cut my penis off, called castration anxiety. And a lot of young boys fear this castration anxiety, fear the idea that they're going to lose their penis and lose their power. No, that's different. Okay, so wait a second. Little girls have something called penis envy. Penis envy. Why do they have penis envy? They don't got one. But who has one? Their mom. Okay, anybody who's been married for more than 15 years realizes who's really in charge in any relationship. I don't care how conservative or Middle Eastern you are. The wife is the one who controls it. Okay, you could say the dad's in charge, rah, stomp, stomp, stomp. The mom goes, we're having this for dinner. The dad goes, okay. It's just, there's a lot of bluster, but it turns out that the females really do have a lot more power than Freud let on. How do they get power? They learn to control a penis. Again, it sounds weird out of context, but it's funnier out of context, so I have to say it that way. But so wait a second. What if you grew up without having a mom or a dad? So how could the boys resolve this complex, resolve this castration anxiety? Yeah, they start having a penis by social comparison. Well, we make the joke is what's the difference between a Porsche and a porcupine? The Porsche has the pricks on the inside. Okay, but why do people call like the very expensive sports cars penis cars? Or they put the giant pickup truck with the big tires on it. And some people even hang testicles from their trucks. So years ago, and this was great, when I had I had a white Toyota minivan before I had this one, I got annoyed by, they're called, yeah, well, you got to compensate for whatever. Yes, that's what that is. This is the proper way to deploy your truck nut. Oh, wait, this guy's even better. Right. Okay, sorry for bringing you to a dark side of the world. That's not important. Okay, but, so the idea of this is, okay, hold on. So just for me being me, when I had the white Toyota minivan, it's my mom car that I drove around. So I took a magnet with a white piece of rope and stuck it up underneath the van so that I would park next to a truck with truck nuts and take a picture of my van with the string hanging down. Tampon string. There's a picture. There's a picture somewhere on here just because I just was so irritated by these people with these giant testicles waggling behind their trucks. But what's weird about it is that why would you go overly male on people? No woman ever swoons because someone has testicles hanging from their truck. It's not, woo! Okay. And if you are that person, good job. You're helping one person fulfill his destiny. But it's not about trying to impress women. Very rarely was the idea of Freud trying to impress women. Who are you trying to impress? Other men. Your giant truck and your giant car with the loud muffler, it's not to cause other women to swoon, but it's a social comparison. You're trying to establish male identity by being more masculine or more male identity than someone else. And so what happens is, Freud said that this was in the Victorian time, this was a way that men that grew up without dads were trying to show that they had manliness. That men that grew up with very strong father figures actually had a lot of manliness without having to show off their manliness. So what would the girls do then? How would you prove that you're a better girl? Well, so think about it. The males are trying to act more masculine to try to show that they have more penis. What would the girls have to do? Collect more penises. Not that way. I got a suitcase. A keep them in. Okay. No serial killers. Yeah. But what they... I was thinking Rihanna. Anyway, but... No, I was thinking of the Big Butt song that she did, where she keeps dating these guys for the certain reasons that they have and then killing them. Oh, yeah. Okay. You can watch it on your own time. It's moving on. Okay. So, but the idea is that doesn't mean you actually have to engage in lots of sexual activity. But Freud said that women that were lacking a strong mother figure would be more flirty and more trying to attract more attention from masculine attention. So you would search for trying to get more males to pay attention to you, so that you could have your penis, as it were. But again, do you see this in our society, though? Yeah. Anywhere you look. No. You ever shower at the Y, Jimmy? Okay. Naked guy? Yeah. Okay. But the question, so when we made the joke about the beach nowadays, my daughter and her stupid beach volleyball people, she goes, all the senior girls order the small bikini bottoms. All like the freshmen are ordering the biggest ones that they can find because they're nervous about their tush hanging out. But as soon as the girls realize that as soon as they start showing more cheek, more people pay attention, what happens? They're not hoes. They're my daughter. Write that down. I'm putting on a lab coat. No. No, but what's funny is that the older people say, oh yeah, they're looking slutty. But what they're doing is by expressing themselves according to just the way people are, the more attention they get, does that help their self-esteem? Yes. Whether it should or not is a completely different question. Okay, what should you do so we can go do the activity next time? Do the surveys. Do all of them, as many as you can.